being
Well,
7
we know
o'clock,
that. Yeah.
it being 7 o'clock, we call this meeting to order. We've got 4 members in attendance. Ann is absent. There is currently no associate member. So just at 7:15, we're going to take up a continuation request from Lisa Mead on 0 Middle Street. Did everybody see the email that I forwarded?
No,
Yes.
but you
Yes.
told me about it.
Right. I'm hoping I have your right email address, Deb. Is it something about your dog?
Yeah, with 2
Okay.
G's. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Ray, did you see it?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
So 7:15, we'll take that up. Until that time, we should probably discuss what we want to do between now and 8 o'clock. Because we don't really have a bunch of stuff, but we certainly have some stuff that we could take up. And then I think we would probably entertain a motion to recess until 8 o'clock when everybody else is going to be joining us for pickleball.
Oh,
Does that sound okay?
yes.
As a
Yes.
plan?
Works for me. Yes.
Ray?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I don't know what past practice is, but what I'm proposing is I didn't see any minutes to react to in the package. Is that correct?
I didn't either. So
Let me just, usually they're at the back. Let me just double check. See, this is why I'm scrambling, Rob, so that I already would already know this.
Right. So I saw no minutes at the back. I saw nothing at the back except 2 correspondences.
That's correct. Which
So
we
what
can
I
deal
would say
with.
is the next thing would be reports and updates. Is that okay
Right.
to go on to?
sure.
Good by me.
So the first one would be the MBTA working group update. We did meet last week, Thursday evening.
Yep.
And it was well attended in person and it was well attended via Zoom. I think Wendy is here. So she served as moderator. And Wendy, would you be comfortable updating the planning board with what transpired?
Sure. So
Is that okay? Is that okay with the planning board?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Good, thank you.
So the purpose of the meeting was to share the process and of reviewing the parcels that were suggested by residents, and then to share the screening process that the working group used to get down from 30 to 3 locations. And so the 3 locations that were submitted to HLC for pre-eligibility review were a combination of 2 housing authority parcels with a town-owned parcel between, which is the parking lot behind the gazebo. 902 Main Street, which is the Society of St. John's parcel. And the third one was Break Hill, and the intent there was to submit just a 6-acre parcel, or the minimum needed to comply, not the entire 115 acres. And I think you voted at your last meeting to include that in the HPP, which does make it eligible for consideration as a MBTA zoning location. So I'm happy to go over the process, but I know some of you were in attendance, so I don't know if that's needed.
Just as a summary, how are those 3 parcels received by the people in attendance?
Depends if you live next to one of them.
So there were some abutters concerned?
Yeah, so the working group decided to send abutter notices, letting them know about the meeting to anybody within 3 feet of a property. So that was over 100 notices went out prior to that.
300 feet?
Yes.
300.
Yeah. So some people in Parsons Woods misunderstood the letter and thought that it meant there was a conservation parcel within Parsons Woods. They thought that that was the location, even though conservation restrictions are clearly excluded. So there was some misunderstanding about that. Break Hill abutters were quite concerned, not knowing where the proposed location would be. So that's something we'd have to work out if that was the parcel we brought forward to town meeting. But in general, I mean, there was a lot of positive feedback about the process and that people's viewpoints had been included. So I think it was a really worthwhile effort for the working group in the town.
And when can we expect feedback from the state on the 3 parcels?
Technically 90 days. We submitted them the second week of July, but that was when every municipality in the state was submitting at the same time. Ian Burns from MVPC suggested that we could get results within the next few weeks. So if that happened, we'd be looking to select a parcel and then refer it to the planning board and hopefully have a public hearing quickly rather than the full 60 days that you're allowed to.
If the state comes back and says that all 3 parcels would be eligible, then how will you narrow it down to one from that?
Just based on the working group's preference, how well the parcels fit the resident input we received. We were pretty unanimous in our priority of ranking of the ones, but that were submitted. But ultimately, it would be the select board's decision.
Right, right. So there would be discussions at the working group level for sure. And we would end up, again, restating what, given anything new that we've learned or whatever, what our priorities are. But then it ultimately goes to the select board to make their selection to submit over to the planning board. The one thing that should be noted is that there are still people in town that don't understand that compliance is actually required. There are still people that want to argue that this is not good zoning and we shouldn't do it. And I think we have to be really clear with people that we're not really presented with a choice to do nothing. We're presented with making a choice that probably puts us in the best position that we can be in. Is that fair to say, Wendy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Good and bad. People that were not involved in this process last time around at last town meeting turned up because they abutted a property and they did not understand much of the process. So I've spent
Right.
a lot of time since then trying to respond to people's emails and explain why this is necessary and what it really means. So more people will be educated as a result of this, but it feels like starting over in some ways. So.
Right, and that will probably continue right up until
Mhm.
town meeting.
Right.
I mean, this is mostly about education, if not anything.
Mhm.
What was ironic was there was a fellow that unfortunately got up and made misstatements, I'm sure not purposely, but led people to believe that Milton incurred nothing other than $140,000 loss of a grant. That's not true. It was like over $1 million according to the town. But the point,
and that's as of now.
yeah, it says that was a small snippet of time. So,
Yeah.
but the interesting thing was his point was that they've suffered nothing because of it. What he didn't go on to say is, and oh, by the fact that they still don't like it. They still have qualms about it. They're not saying that they agree with it, but they have in fact gotten into full compliance. So we left out that part of the story that Milton itself, the most recalcitrant of all of the communities, is now compliant by their own hand, and that to me speaks volumes of where we will be, I hope, ending up ourselves. So that's MBTA. Is that good enough?
No, I've got a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
I know that comments were made at that last working group meeting about one, including NAP as an option, and B, offering more than one, having town meeting choose from one or two or however many people parcels pass muster. Is either of those under consideration, Wendy?
At this point, no, we're just focusing on identifying the location.
But my thought is, again, and I go back to the fact that we would like to comply with the state, not just because we have to, but because it's an opportunity to build housing. And I think that gets overlooked in all three of the parcels that are under consideration. And that seems like it's not complying with the spirit of what the intention was. And
So I had mentioned at the meeting that this is not the only bite of the apple. If it came to pass that the town, in fact, thought that MBTA would be a useful tool, we can revisit it whether we've put another MBTA property in place or not. So you have to recognize that there's a time constraint with
right,
serious ramifications. So
yeah,
so
get that.
nothing about housing should be thought to be off of the table. This is just one spot on a continuum that we're dealing with. And to your point, there's nothing that says that we won't suddenly understand that MBTA can in fact be a
Useful
an asset
tool.
to the town. Yeah, useful tool. Thank you. But in the meantime, you have to count votes.
Thank you.
I got a question. So from what you've explained and from what I understand, at no point in this process are you going to be asking for input from the planning board as a whole. The select board will make their decision and then hand it to the planning board with the direction that we do what's required by state law.
Yeah, that was the reason to have a planning board member as part of the working group, so that the, planning board's viewpoint would still be represented.
But at no point have you come to the planning board and asked for our input on any of the parcels at this point.
Right, that was the point of the working group, to winnow these down, and then we had to submit them to the state to have any chance of having this resolved by town meeting. So
Yeah, that's been communicated very well throughout. It's in the published documents for the working group. It's actually the same question you asked last time, Ray. And yes, you're correct. What will end up happening is the select board will be making a decision about what to put on the town meeting warrant. And then because a public hearing has to be held by the planning board, that would be referred over to you, us.
Okay. I just, for the record, state that this seems counter to the intent of the laws of the Commonwealth as I understand them.
So does that wrap up MBTA for tonight?
Yeah,
No, you got something else?
no, I'm good.
Oh, okay. So can we go along to the, it's 1 minute away from 7:15. So I'm going to do another 1 minute pause so that we can take that up immediately, because I'm pretty sure people are going to want to know what's going on with 0 Middle Street tonight as soon as they can. So we're at 7:14 now, awaiting 7:15, and then I guess what I do then is reopen the continued public hearing.
Yeah,
So I hope you don't mind dead air. I mean, Ray, do you have any music at all?
Yeah. When I was doing radio and DJ stuff, dead air was anathema.
I know. It's like you can cause heart attacks when you mention dead air.
Yep, always.
I've got one place, 7:15, both places.
There we
Okay, we're
go.
ready to go.
Yes.
So we're reopening the continued public hearing at 0 Middle Street, and we have a request from the applicant that we continue this public hearing until the next meeting on the 19th, August 19th. And so we would need to have a vote to approve that request. So do I have a motion?
But before we do that, may I
Sure.
suggest that perhaps we just make it at either 7 or 7:05?
Yes.
I can't recall why we wound up with 7:15, but
So
we
I
did.
agree. Related to that, I've asked Jen to send out to each one of us a reminder about the meeting, and yes, we should state the time. I would imagine it should always be 7:05 because Ray's got to open up the console, and we don't know what might be going on with that. But let's just presume 7:05 is what it is. I've asked Jen to send each of us a note to let us know that in fact we'll have all 5 members in attendance.
All right. Well, I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing per the applicant's request to August 19th at 7:05 p.m.
Second.
So any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. So alphabetically, Mr. Cook,
Ray Cook, aye.
I guess it's me, Deb Hamilton. I've recused myself from voting on this matter.
okay.
So I think I can be there, but I can't vote.
Right, okay. So, and
Brian
then
Murphy. Brian Murphy, aye.
Aye, and Rob Phillips, aye. So we have a quorum. We got 3 votes positive. So this hearing is being continued for 2 weeks until 7:05 in the evening of the 19th. So continuing on with this filling dead air. By the way,
Rob, can I just jump in here real quick?
sure.
If the public might be concerned about us doing this without knowing why. And I'll
Is
just,
that the right? So
Yeah,
so reason yes, go ahead, Ray. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, this is fairly common, just so everybody here knows
Right.
who hasn't been
Right.
attending planning board meetings.
Right.
This is fairly common when an applicant sees that there won't be a full set of members voting on a subject. Sometimes they ask for a continuance so that all the planning board members can be there and vote. So this is not anything sneaky. This is what the applicant has requested, and it's common that this happens.
It's for good cause. As Ray said, we don't have a full contingency of voters. So the applicant requests that the hearing be held in 2 weeks, and we're going to make sure ourselves that we'll have the full contingent. As Deb said, she's recused herself, but we need 4 members in attendance. So this just allows us to set a firm date, reconfirm that amongst all the members, and reconvene 2 weeks hence. So thank you, Ray. That's
Thanks, Rob.
It's actually very important to let people know that. So now we're ready to go on to MVPC updates, Brian?
No, it's vacation time for MVPC. Next meeting is
That's
in
your update. Good.
late September. Thank you.
So, right. So, let me say this too. So the next thing we have posted that we have to get to is at 8 p.m. And I think what we're doing right now is looking to take care of everything that we would take care of, but do it now instead of after 8 p.m. And if we were to, for instance, complete that in the next 10 minutes, I would propose we recess until 8 p.m. So keep that in mind if you would. Affordable Housing Trust updates?
I don't have anything new. We are looking into the Mullen property. Wendy and Wendy, who else is on that committee, the Mullen Study Group?
It's not actually a study group. I think we received a grant from the Mass Housing Partnership to conduct a feasibility study to develop affordable housing there. So it's in their hands. They actually hire the consultants to look at the site constraints and propose a build out, and they actually would develop the RFP for the developers. So that's the end product, and we're hopefully by the end of the summer we'll have that in hand, and then we could
Wow,
look at it and put it out to bid if we choose and go from there.
cool. So
And
this is
this-
100% affordable housing?
I don't think it'll be 100%, but it'll be more than 50. So
Okay.
that is one of the Mullen was proposed by a lot of people, not a lot, several people for the MBTA zoning location, and the reason the working group chose to not select that was because the affordable
Right.
housing percentage would be much lower.
It would conflict, and you might also then run into grant issues.
Right.
As I recall. I do have one other question. When you're talking about housing of whatever it is the nature of housing smaller or larger units?
Smaller. We have an
Affordable?
aging population, and every study and the housing production plan, everything else suggests that households in West Newbury are small and getting smaller and getting older and getting poorer. So I think that the need for, if not technically affordable, that meets state guidelines, but more attainable housing is certainly the goal rather than more bigger houses.
The problem with the term affordable is unfortunately, we use it in common English parlance, and the state uses it to define by certain income levels. So
that's right.
So as you mentioned with MBTA, one benefit of looking at different types of housing is to get more housing that suits more people, other than the 4-bedroom, $1.25 million home,
Right.
which is really what we build nowadays. So is that a good update, Deb?
I'm happy. Thank you.
Okay. We did have on here town planner search. I did speak to Ann before she left. Both she and Angus are very positive about the search and expect some good results, but without an offer letter going out and being returned signed, it's probably best not to speak to this issue anymore, other than to say that they're both very positive towards what seems to be going on.
Good to hear.
I know.
Are there multiple candidates? Do
So
we know anything about that?
what I just said was that they would like us just to be aware that they're feeling positive, and just we'll hold our horses until they have something that
they want to
they
share.
can announce, right?
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, so we have this correspondence, and if anybody wants to make note of the correspondence, which is other towns doing other things, feel free. I did want to just raise two things, neither of which are on the agenda, but I think they're qualified to be raised under the not anticipated. So with your permission, I'll just raise two items quickly. They're not for votes or discussion. They're not anything that's controversial. So is that okay if I do that?
Sure.
Sure.
So Tim Cronin has told me that he's made application to be the associate member of the planning board.
Holy cow. Wow.
That'd be great.
Wow.
Wouldn't it?
That would be, that's,
Yeah.
that's terrific news.
Great.
Right. So I'm announcing it because he's told me he's already made the application. So I'm taking that as something that's actually been accomplished. So,
Well, then, through Wendy's presence here, I can, I'm sure I can speak for the other planning board members saying that, as soon as it's settled, our job is to make a recommendation to the select board of our preferred associate member candidates. And I'm sure that we would be recommending Tim for that position. It
yeah,
doesn't-
to that,
Here.
Then the
to that, Ray.
selectmen, then the selectmen actually are the ones who appoint.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
make the appointment, but to what you just said, I think that it would be safe to make sure that the next meeting out, we're taking up the applicants for the associate position. I think that should be on the agenda. I feel comfortable in
Okay.
getting that to the agenda so we could take that action that Ray just reminded us that we have to do.
I will also point out that there's always the possibility that another outstanding candidate shows up in the interim, and that our decision won't be that easy. But I'm
Right. Right.
very pleased to know that we will have at least one good person to
Right.
recommend to the select board.
Right.
And
So,
we can have two associates as well,
No.
can't we?
No,
No.
one.
Just one. Okay.
so let's leave it at that. But so we'll discuss this again by agenda item on the 19th. And yeah, I agree with you, Ray. Tim's a remarkable guy. The other thing, what I wanted to mention was that we had hosted West Newbury Wild and Native about what the work they're doing in town and where it might fit into certain aspects of what we do and what the town does. Well, I had a similar request from Nancy Powell as it related to what's called dark skies. And so what I wanted to do is get a discussion for the 19th where we consider, whether or not to invite Nancy and whomever else is active in that arena to do what Carol Decker did for us on native plants, make a presentation, what dark skies are about, who's been implementing it, why they implement it, how you implement it. So I just wanted to get permission to put it on the agenda for the 19th to discuss whether we're interested in this or not.
Sure.
Yep.
I'll
Yeah.
also mention for the record that the planning board has a long tradition, long
Yes.
meaning years, of being concerned about glare and lighting. So
Yep.
it's nothing new to us, but I'm sure we can always learn from people who are totally immersed in it.
Well, not only that, Ray, is this is how you start building a consensus so that it goes out to the community.
Sure.
So for instance, Wild and Native, the hope is that the more it's adopted, the more that it's talked about, the more that it's put in place, the easier
Yes.
it becomes for people to understand. I know the work that you started many, many years ago, you were slogging uphill. There's now a lot more talk about dark skies than when you guys first took it up. And I was there when we first took it up, and the resistance from the lighting engineers was profound. So yeah, you laugh, but you remember, right? So anyways, it's probably a better time to take it back up again. I hope.
Hey, Rob,
Yep.
do you want me to just mention the correspondence?
Sure. Yeah. Go right ahead.
All right, so we have two, and for those, there are a lot of people here that aren't normally here. So one of the things that's required is that when there's certain actions that occur, we have to let our neighboring communities know what we're doing. And and similarly, neighboring communities let us know, and that's what falls under correspondence. The first is a legal notice by the town of Merrimack Planning Board about a public hearing for a special permit to rehabilitate an existing building, first floor commercial space into residential units. And that would be at 9 West Main Street in Merrimack. And the second one is from the town of Groveland Planning Board, another legal notice. And they'll be holding a public hearing for a request to have a major modification to an approved special permit and site plan to modify the layout of the plan to construct 3 buildings in place of the 1 larger building on a portion of the site. And, you know, the special permits are fairly common. And when they're granted, there are conditions. And if there's a major change from a granted special permit, it's called a major modification, and it requires a reopening of a public hearing. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
So if there were to be anything else, please, make it known. But otherwise, it had been suggested by one member that we consider recessing until 7:59.
Very good.
So
I'm
is
going
that
to keep Zoom up
Yep.
so that nobody gets kicked out and there's no problem getting back on. But you can just mute yourself and turn off your camera, and you'll stay on while we're in recess. Brian?
I think do we need to take a vote on this?
Yeah, I was going to say we should agree that we're going to do this. So
Yes.
in alphabetical order again, Ray.
Did we make the motion?
No, you're going to make the motion.
Okay, I move that we recess until 7:59.
Second.
So voting, Ray.
Ray Cook, aye.
Deb Hamilton, aye.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Rob Phillips, aye. So unanimous. So we're going to go into recess until 7:59.
Thank
Right,
you.
and just to make sure everybody's clear on this, I want everybody to mute your microphone. We should have no discussion until 7:59.
So no one can use this meeting to have a discussion, Ray. So everybody mute.
deal. Stop and Shop boneless skinless chicken breast is $2.49 per pound. Strawberries, blueberries, or blackberries are buy two, get one free. And cut seedless watermelon is 99 cents per pound. Good things are in store at Stop and Shop. Promotional consideration provided by Ranger.
No, no,
Hi, Rob.
Hey, how are you?
Great, I got to watch Jeopardy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, good break.
Oh, hello, Angus. Oh, you're muted.
Hi, Deb. Have you guys been in recess?
Yes,
Yes.
for an hour. Yep.
Yeah, just we're picking back up at 7:59, which is 9:87. We're getting there. So we went into recess. Middle Street, Zero Middle Street was continued until 2 weeks out, and we did the rest of our meeting agenda, and now we're going to take up pickleball at 8 o'clock. So I see you have your pickleball hat on.
Tennis, but close enough.
Right, close enough. The real pickleball.
Macro pickleball.
Macro,
Right,
yeah. that's
right.
10.
Pickleball is kind of like macro ping pong.
Yeah. Right, right.
I'm old enough to remember ping pong diplomacy.
I was
There you
just
go.
thinking about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
You're probably not old enough, Angus, to remember that.
I saw Forrest Gump. Does that count?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Counts.
it gives you the idea, sure.
Yeah,
1972, as I recall.
that was a big deal. Hey, Angus, I've got our planning board packet up and I can share that screen. Or do you
Okay,
prefer?
great. Yeah, were you waiting for me to talk? We've got Rich Williams here as to
What?
represent the application. I'm here kind of for discussion.
Yeah, I'm just preliminarily, I was just
Okay,
gonna
sure.
say, do you want me to share the plans and whatnot?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, Rob, 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. So we're gonna open up the public hearing on pickleball, the continued public hearing. Angus is in attendance, which is good, being the most knowledgeable person about most every aspect of this site plan review. So how do you want to proceed from here? Planning board members.
I think we would invite Angus to tell us what our status is, or member from Parks and Rec.
Yeah, so when we open with Angus, I'm hoping Doug, Casey, and Wendy are here. But I think Angus, not having been around last week, is the best one to bring us up to date, because I think he's got some new stuff he shared with as well.
It might make sense, I'm sorry to interrupt or hijack the process, but it might make sense for me to take you through the plan changes, since I prepared those. If
Sounds
that's
good.
okay.
Yep.
Rob's call, but it's good by me.
Me
Yeah,
too.
sure, go right ahead. Whatever you think makes the process works best.
And it might make sense for me to share my screen. I've got the same plan and I can point to the appropriate places on the plan as I go through them, if that's okay.
You bet, go right ahead.
Okay. You guys see that okay?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna start at the gravel parking area, which was correctly labeled gravel parking area on the updated plan. There was already a handicap parking and loading space in this area. We've labeled that to be one handicap parking space and one loading area. And that's the entrance to the path to the playground area. And then at the path to the pickleball area, we similarly have a handicap parking space and a handicap loading area and signage for that. The path has been confirmed to be stone dust and generally in the same location. However, in this area here, we pulled the path away from flag A10 to get a little more room from the wetland flag. We staked it out for viewing by the Conservation Commission and have been back to the Conservation Commission, and they were, as I understand, satisfied. That's correct, right, Angus? Satisfied with the location of the relocated path.
Yep, they said that if it ended up being pushed closer to the playground, that would be favorable. They were supportive of how it's shown, but they were aware that the planning board hearing was continued, and so they said if the path ends up moving, closer to the playground and further away from the resource area, they would be happy. But they didn't have any objection to where it's shown on the updated plan.
Okay. And the walkway goes to the pickleball court, and in the prior plan there was a section of gravel shown at the end of the walkway, and we've gotten rid of that. And at the end of the walkway there's an opening in the fencing, a 3-foot opening, and that will allow folks to enter the pickleball court and traverse through it between the two courts out to another 3-foot opening in the court out to the back of the court. And I'll go through that in a few minutes as to what's going on back there. The court itself.
Excuse me, one second. What is the orientation of the courts?
The courts go,
Easty westy.
yeah,
What?
it's northwest to southeast. So there's a court here like this and a court here like this.
Those should be shown.
Well, okay. I mean, it's lines on the court. But this path is going between the courts, between what's
Right,
going to be
right, right,
lined on the court.
North
So,
and south.
will there be issues with Western Sun in the afternoon?
Um,
No, they're pretty northeast southy, actually.
the sun's over here, so that's going to be the highest fence. So I think it's probably, the best orientation, but you're not looking into the sun.
Right.
Right, the sun's usually, I guess, southwest, so it would be coming in from, as you face the entrance would be the left side, so shouldn't be an issue. The fencing has been revised to be 6 feet on 3 sides, and that is the side adjacent to the baseball field, the side adjacent to the playground area, and the side adjacent to the access pathway. The side that's adjacent to the wetlands has been revised to be 8 feet tall, and the reason for that is that the Conservation Commission was concerned about balls going into the wetland and expressed interest in having a higher fence over there, so we raised that to 8 feet. All of the fencing, except for the side adjacent to the baseball field, has Acoustifence sound barrier on it, 6 feet high. On the baseball side, the Acoustifence is going to be applied to the outfield fence of the baseball. And effectively, the height of that will be 6 feet because we've got a 4-foot outfield fence and this 2-foot sitting wall. So the height of the top of the Acoustifence will be 6 feet above the playing surface of the pickleball court. The pickleball court surface has been revised to be asphalt, and there's a detail on the plan that shows the construction of that. It's 6 inches of fractured rock, and then a total of 4 inches of pavement laid in 2 courses. It's 2.5 inches of binder, and then a 1.5 inch finish course. And then on top of that, they apply a liquid acrylic surface system, and that seals and provides the playing surface for the pickleball court. We also put the size of the fencing posts and the appropriate gauge of the mesh of the fencing.
Can I jump in with a question?
Sure.
Can you show the fence post foundation someplace and show that it's below frost line?
They normally don't go below frost fence posts. It's 2 feet normally.
Yeah, well, I've seen problems with frost jacking and other fences in the area. But in any case,
This is the standard for pickleball in the areas where there's freeze thaw. This is their standard the pickleball construction detail.
yeah, but this is, the fence and its stability has nothing to do with pickleball. The fence and its stability has to do with local conditions. And generally speaking, you want fence posts to go down to frost line. But if it's going to be 2 feet, and if I'm wrong, and I've been wrong about a lot of things in my life, it should be shown on this detail. Because right now, it shows that it's just a little over a foot if I add up the 6 inches and all the other bit. And
yeah, we can add a fence post foundation detail. Normally we just show.
You can put it
Normally
right.
it's just shown on the plan as a fence, but because the fence installers will be installing it, per.
I don't want to
their-
leave. I don't want to leave it up to the fence post installers. I want something
Yeah.
calling out the dimension below grade here so that they can't, because I've seen fence installers cheat on that. It probably wouldn't be cheating with steel fence posts, but in any case, please call out the depth below grade.
Okay.
And also, are these fence posts going to be set in bare earth? Are they going to be set in concrete? Are they going to be set in?
They'll be set in concrete. Yeah.
Well, then something needs to show on that detail as well. What's the diameter of the hole, and et cetera, et cetera. And I should walk the baseball field to see if there's frost jacking there. By the way, for those who don't know, frost jacking is when you get water below the concrete that a fence post is set in. It freezes it. It expands just a little bit, and then every winter a little more water goes in there, and it just jacks the fence post right out of the ground. I think there's some happening at Pipe Stave as well. I should look around. Sorry to interrupt. Please go ahead.
Okay. So I forget where I left off, the fencing. So, as I said earlier, we've got a, 5 foot wide stone dust viewing area here adjacent to the wall. So if someone were, and I know there was some discussion about, people in wheelchairs, if they could find a place to watch. This is the place that's set aside for that. There's 5 feet between the sitting wall and the fencing. So someone could either sit on the wall or sit in their chair and watch. This side of the court will not be obscured by acoustic fence because it will be on the outfield fence. So that
Excellent.
works.
And the stone dust is appropriate for wheelchair use?
Yes. Yes, stone dust is ADA compliant.
If it's packed, good.
Yes, correct.
And if you're making modifications to the plan, can you say 5 foot wide clear or 5 foot clear width? Just so that contractors are absolutely sure they know what they're doing there. 5 foot clear width stone dust viewing area, that would be nice.
Uh,
Hello?
I think that covers the changes to the plan.
So, if you would it be possible to show the court orientation along with the appropriate north-south indicator? I myself would feel more comfortable knowing.
Well, there's a
what the
north
time-
arrow on the plan. Do you need more than that?
Yeah, I guess we're agreed that you're running.
Southeast to northwest.
Yeah, exactly, right. So that will suffice. Yes, that will suffice. I just would like there to be a notation of the way that the courts are orientated on the plan.
Once again, that's a good idea, just because people make mistakes. Any additional information like this is helpful to have on the plans.
There were a couple other questions that we discussed at the last meeting. One was whether the parking lot is sufficient to accommodate both Action Cove and possibly 8 cars coming for pickleball. How big is that parking lot? Do we know?
When you say how big it is, do you mean the square footage or how many spaces are there?
How many spaces, Rich?
Estimated at 21, just because it's gravel and not lined, but about 21 cars.
And
And there are other places to park in the vicinity.
right, that
you know,
was the
there are-
other question that we had raised, whether there could be a walking trail that went out to the parking lot over in the northeast corner of this image, the
Right, so,
ball field.
yep. You're talking northeast being out and around the field. I don't
Well,
think that,
it looks
I don't-
like it looks like it would go in the straight line all the way out toward Bachelor Street.
oh, you're talking this way.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, the easterly. Yeah,
When-
we did
when-
talk about that, and I said we'd look at it, and we have looked at it in the past, and it is not part of this application because it's not feasible within the budget that's allotted for this project.
Well,
it's
yeah, I'm not crazy about that answer. We asked you to look at it, and if we want to put this in as a condition, then the town will make a decision whether to seek additional funds. I think we'd like to see if can that be done.
So,
I know
Rick,
this member would like to
excuse
see.
me 1 second, Rick. Okay, excuse me 1 second. So some of the questions that we're getting into now, I think, perhaps are best discussed with Angus. The engineer works at the direction of the town. You know, it's, I think Angus has the best way of discussing some of these items, like the sound barrier, like additional parking, like the walkway. Angus, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, to some extent, although I think that the suggestion that the board could impose a condition requiring a second path, I think that would be out of bounds for a site plan review application. That's my opinion.
Well, I just jump in here. I only need reassurance, Angus, that that's in the works. It doesn't, and I think it's within, I think it does fall within site plan review, because site plan review has to deal with parking and safety and circulation and all that kind of stuff. If things get too congested in the gravel parking lot, then I think that is a valid concern for the site plan review.
It's a valid concern, but whether, you know, the suggestion of that as a condition, it's not part of the proposal in front of you. But anyhow, just to back up a little bit. So the zoning bylaw, as you know, doesn't prescribe fixed parking ratios for different uses. It provides that parking, the sufficiency of parking is determined by the building inspector, and the building inspector has opined that the parking is sufficient. So that's not in any way to suggest that you shouldn't ask about it or talk about it, but in terms of
That's
whether
good. And
there is no objective standard in the zoning as to.
understood. In the future, if somebody were to look for reassurances, did the building inspector, no, not the building inspector. It's a better name than that. He's
Building
more than,
commissioner.
did the commissioner. Did the commissioner send an email or something for the record?
I may have an email. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I did
Can we,
talk
if
to
we
him about
can, that would be good to have in the future.
Yeah, that
And
would be.
by
no
the
problem.
way, I'm gonna jump in here, as long as we're talking about this future route potential between the two ball fields. I'm just put it out there, a great idea, I think, would be to decrease the distance from home plate to that fence, move the fence in towards the middle ball field, make the chain link fence very high, and call it West Newbury's own green monster. If you move that fence in closer to home plate in the center field, in the center of the three fields, you'll have more space for a level path. And you'd want a taller fence there anyway to protect pedestrians from. So anyway, I think that there's a great potential project there, and I would be reassured knowing that Parks and Rec, we're planning on going forward with this in the future and securing funding and going.
Right. So to Ray's point, there's something in front of us that we have to attend to, which is the construction of the path, the construction of the pickleball court. The biggest issue we know is noise, which Angus updated us on, but we should
Yeah.
have further discussions about that. There are some related items that are a consequence of putting this in place. And we had a discussion a few times back where Brian had said the same thing that Ray said, which is, you know, there may be some things we would like to call out for future consideration. And I think the parking that exists currently needs to be called out for future consideration. I think that the path that would take you from additional parking down to the pickleball needs to be called out for future consideration. But I do agree with Angus that one part of this is to look at the path, the pickleball court itself, the things that the engineer was talking about. This isn't to say we shouldn't make note of anything that we think might be an improvement for the town to take up as it relates to the pickleball court being on this site. So I'm hoping that that's the way we can proceed the rest of the evening, which is take care of the immediate application, but also call out those things that we think need to be noted as additional items to take up in the future, probably, if not absolutely.
Oh, and thank you, Rob. And just, I want to, for the record, I'm very pleased that you've put down a stone tuss path and you've got a way for viewing and that's much improved. Thank you.
Right.
Engineer Williams, quickly, in the background, I've been digging around and yes, the foundations for the fence posts should be below frost line here in Massachusetts. And that's generally considered 3 feet. However, if the building commissioner was fine with a lesser depth, then, I think that's fine. But if I were the building commissioner, I would insist on it being below frost line.
Well, I'm going to respectfully disagree. Fences are typically not 4 feet down. The frost depth in Massachusetts is 4 feet. And unless it is a structural pole that's holding netting or lighting, they are typically not 4 feet. However, we can talk about the depth of that fence, and if they want to ensure that there's never any frost movement of it, maybe they'll decide to go to 4 feet, but it's not typical.
I'm out of bounds here. If the building commissioner is comfortable with whatever you're proposing, then I'll be comfortable too, as long as it's noted on the plan.
Okay.
If, Rob, if I could just offer two other, just
Yep,
quick, one thing
absolutely.
is, in terms of when I said a minute ago about kind of the scope of the review and what's before you, part of what is important to keep in mind is that obviously this proposal is CPA funded, and as you know, there's language included in every town meeting article with CPA funds that the project that's to be constructed is to be consistent with the application submitted for CPA funding. So that's, I think something important to keep in mind, because what you see is exactly what was described. It wasn't obviously engineered at that point because we hadn't gotten the approval to justify expending the money to actually get the thing engineered. But in terms of the narrative description of the two courts and the access path, that's all exactly as was set out in the CPA funding application. So that is the project, kind of, voted up or down, but that's the project. The second thing I would just offer, and if I could do a quick screen share, there was a concept prepared a couple of years ago by a former Park and Rec Commission for basically an interconnected series of paths. Is this coming through on your screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So this was submitted in mid-February 2022. It was just a concept. It wasn't prepared by, a consultant or anything. It was kind of a sketch. It was submitted at that time as a proposal for CPA funding to do kind of master plan for this location. It was submitted when the process was already kind of, the deadline to submit applications had already long passed. And so it didn't go forward because procedurally it really wasn't ripe, and it showed some things specifically here on land that is not actually under the care and custody of the Park and Rec Commission. It's under the custodial oversight of the Select Board and subject to easement to the benefit of the Housing Authority. and there had, at the time this was submitted, there hadn't been any conversation with the select board or the housing authority. So it kind of wasn't ripe, if you will. But I think the idea, I bring it up just to make the point that the commission over the years has talked about this site kind of big picture, what is kind of the future vision, improved connectivity and so forth. And as recently as, I think in the last few days, Doug and I have talked about that further, and I've certainly offered support of my office and staff if the commission wants to undertake something like that, to separately seek design funding for resource area delineation, as well as potential kind of plan for improved interconnectivity. So that is something that I think the commission's, I don't want to speak for them, Doug's right here, but certainly I've gone to just about all their meetings for the last 6 years, and that topic's come up from time to time. So I think it is very reasonable to expect that they'll continue to be looking at that. It's just not part of this proposal.
Right. So related to that, and again, Brian, a few meetings back, had raised the concept of knowing that the town would be working on something that appears to be an issue. Ray has brought it up again today. I would say that a site plan review that involves the town as opposed to a private party, the one thing about the town is, that a lot of towns actually exempt themselves from zoning requirements. The philosophy being that the town is supposed to act on the behalf of its inhabitants. I would myself would be comfortable if we paid attention to the thing that's before us, the path and the pickleball itself. But I myself would love to see some notation of items that seem to us to need future attention, like parking, like paths, etc. So to that end, what I'm not saying let's not discuss the stuff that relates to parking and paths, but I think we need to really nail down the plan in front of us in its entirety before we move on to anything else. And also, Angus, you have waiver requests in front of us, which I don't believe we've ever talked about.
Yeah, that was in the.
I just mentioned that as stuff we have to attend to.
Yep.
And then I believe at the end we can have a discussion about what's going to satisfy the board when it looks at certain concerns like circulation and parking. If this is okay with the board, please just let me know. Otherwise, we can discuss doing it a different way. Okay, everybody muted?
No,
No,
Okay,
give you a thumbs up.
Okay, good, thank you. So let's do it that way. I do want to have Angus flesh out, particularly the noise, the number one concern we've all had. So we can get into asking about, things like why 6 feet, why not 8 feet for the fencing, et cetera. How comfortable we are that the isolation, the sound proofing will work, et cetera. So Angus, you'd sent out an update as to why you arrived at being comfortable with what you're proposing as it relates to stuff done elsewhere that seemed to be a good examination of pickleball. Angus, do you want to take us through that?
We actually we have a number of sound studies on file specific to pickleball, as well as some information related specifically to the product that is proposed, the Acoustifence. And the spec on the Acoustifence is based on, it's got that rating of 28. Let me see, I can't remember the acronym. STC, sound transmission class of 28, which is above the minimum recommended in at least that Colorado report of 20. And the 28 is based on, or what I should say is the product spec for the Acoustifence is based on a 6-foot height. So it rates the 28 STC, which again, I'm not certainly not a sound engineer. I'm not trying to be one, but we did find a number of studies. There was one down in Manchester by the Sea for some proposed pickleball courts down there. That wasn't really analogous because it was 6 courts, not 2, and that was one where the nearest abutter was within 100 feet, with other abutters within 200 feet. So it was really, you know, a much more acute issue where we have much further setbacks here. So it seemed like that Centennial report that I referenced in my memo was very comprehensive, 73-page, you know, done by an acoustic engineer. So I kind of pulled some excerpts from that I felt were, you know, seemed to make sense here. But so that's why the 6 feet is proposed, is that's what the product spec shows. Was that your question, Rob?
That's fine by me. I just hope that everybody else is satisfied that from what we know, this will in fact do a decent job of making sure that the neighbors aren't inconvenienced by the sound of pickleball.
The nearest residence is roughly 430 feet, with others, yeah, greater than that. So it seems like, you know, the number one thing in you kind of managing the noise is setbacks and trying to pick a location that is not,
Right.
you know, that's as far as practical from residences. And then the second strategy obviously is the acoustic barrier. So I think in this case we have both of those things.
I will say that a sound attenuation on the order of 20 dB is huge. It surprises me that this material is that effective, but reading some of the technical details about it makes sense.
So maybe we should take a moment and let Doug speak to some of this stuff. He's, you know, he's got thoughts on a lot of what we've been talking about. So Doug, did you want to weigh in at all on the conversation that we've had so far?
Sorry, yeah, I'll kind of keep I'll try to keep the park and rec thoughts brief, but I also don't want to shortchange us either. So first and foremost, we were happy to see the acoustic fence going on 4 sides. Our biggest concern as a commission was always the noise and the abutters. You know, I towed a careful line with how involved I was. There were times that I would recuse myself from discussion about pickleball over at Action Cove, just to not get the commission in a jam with me being in a butter. So we were very pleased to see that we're adding the acoustic fence to all 4 sides. We were fine with whatever changes the Conservation Commission wanted. We're happy to see an 8-foot fence. We weren't really terribly concerned about that. Happy to see that the site plan does, you know, show the asphalt surface and the pathway be the stone dust. We're concerned about parking. That's very much on our radar. I know I spoke to that a little bit at the last meeting. Some ideas that we were brainstorming at our meeting last Thursday included seeing if the DPW could stripe the dirt parking lot for the time being until maybe we can pave it. I imagine paving is a number, so we as a commission would have to go to town meeting to secure funding for that. But it's certainly on our radar. We want to try to use signage as well to encourage overflow parking over to the baseball field. I've checked out the path, I'll use quotations, between the majors baseball field and that minors baseball field. I personally think that if anyone's playing pickleball, they can easily navigate that as it is now. Would it be nice to improve it? Absolutely. And that is something that we discussed as well at our meeting. That's a number, right? So we want to be fiscally responsible and sound to the taxpayer about how much money do we dump into a path. Because we just spent $11,000 on new fencing. So Ray, I heard you saying maybe move a fence or something, but for the minors field, we just spent $11,000 on a new fence there. So to be spending that much more money on moving something, we would want to flush that idea out. But I did check out that pathway, and it seems manageable and well enough for now. But at our meeting, we did say that's something that we would probably look at maybe trying to improve. So those were like our three big things. Like it's like the immediate, right, like the pickleball court. How do we get that built? And then kind of the two sub projects that are branching off of this are an improved pathway and an improved parking situation. So we've brainstormed some, temporary solutions until we can make something a little bit more permanent, as we try to improve that area.
Hey, Doug?
Yes.
You check that path out, thank you. But do you think you could navigate that in a wheelchair?
No, and that's where
So-
that stone dust would at
Yeah.
least we have one way right now.
Yeah,
And then
which I think is great,
Yeah.
the only thing that I mention it because I think that if you have a public facility such as a path that is being regularly used by the public to the knowledge of the government, that path has to be wheelchair accessible. We ran into that when we were talking about a boardwalk down off Follinsby and whatnot. And so I think that there's, and Angus probably knows more about this than I do, but I think that would be increased incentive to the town as a whole in the future for improving that path.
Yeah.
And improving the fencing as required. I still think a West Newbury Green Monster is great.
Duly noted.
And Doug,
Yeah.
are you comfortable with the
Rob?
orientation of the courts?
Yeah.
Have you checked out the way the sun's going to actually work down there with the orientation going?
Yeah, I think it'll be okay because I'm just thinking of like my backyard and the way the sun swings. I think the way the courts are, I think it'll be just fine.
Good. Okay.
I would
Clearly that was always a concern. What's that?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Rob?
Brian?
Yeah, this is really for Doug. No, thank you. I agree. It's good to be fiscally responsible. I do think the taxpayers tend to look favorably upon improvements for our youth sports activities and related functions. And I can't imagine that number for that pathway being astronomical. Certainly be a lot less than the paving would be, which I think would be an improvement anyway, in the Action Cove lot. But I encourage you to pursue that with a goal of bringing that to town meeting in the near term. I'll put it that way. I think there will be a favorable response. Thank you.
Here.
Okay. So what are the concerns about what's being presented to us, engineering or otherwise, do you want to discuss?
Rob, if I could just offer one quick thing. I know I've made reference in a couple of the memos I've written, as well as in the initial site plan application, to signage and to the idea of encouraging able-bodied pickleballers to use the backup parking instead of the primary parking. We have put together some mock-up signs. If it's okay, I'll put that up as a screen share. This is not something I've circulated the Park and Rec Commission. This is something that's going to need to go through them to, finalize the content and design. But I did want to just show that, I'm not just saying that. We are, in fact, intending to do a signage, along these lines of basically like, the primary parking is here, secondary parking, those with mobility challenges use primary lot, those without mobility challenges, utilize secondary lot. I don't love that language. You know, we're going to continue to work on this. Obviously, until this project is permitted, there's only so much time we can frankly afford to put toward it. So I'd like to get the permitting process done so we can get down to kind of the details on this. But I did just want to share that to show that, you know, that the signage is, you know, proposed to encourage people to use the paved lot and walk across the field. But in terms of whether that's a formal path, it is not a formal path. It never has been a formal path. And it really is not in any way analogous to the Whetstone Greenway, but I'm happy to talk about that at a different time. But it's a very different situation than that.
Right.
Real quick,
Um,
Rob, on,
yeah.
I guess on the sign you showed, why 7 a.m. to dusk? Why not dawn to dusk?
It's a draft, Ray. It's going to go to Park and Rec Commission. They'll set the hours.
Okay, no, it's relevant to the site plan since we were talking about sound and all that kind of stuff. Eh, That's all. I'm not trying to be difficult.
Yeah, can I ask, will that discussion be in place for our next meeting? So with Ann present, we could hopefully move forward on this?
I mean, frankly, I'd hoped you would close the hearing tonight. I don't know that there's new information that's going to be on the record.
I'd like to see the signage. When we look at any of these site plans, and this is analogous to having a full and complete application before us.
Regulating the content of signage, as you know, would be a violation of the First Amendment. The content
Please,
is
Angus.
absolutely out of bounds. That is not appropriate for the planning board to regulate the content of signage.
No, but the pickleball hours would be relevant for site plan review.
If
Yes,
the
indeed.
board wanted to impose that, it could, but town council had given us an opinion 5 or 6 years ago that things like hours of operation are squarely under the authority of the Park and Rec Commission based on the 1955 town meeting act that created that.
That's all fine. Doug, have you discussed the hours that you'd like to?
We did have a brief discussion about hours at our last meeting. Nothing's set in stone. We would not do dawn, seeing as in the summer dawn is like 5, and we do not want that noise happening at 5 a.m.
Good.
And we want to respect the neighbors and the kids that live nearby and
Sure.
all that. So we were loosely thinking something along the lines of like a 9 a.m. or a 10 a.m. start time to about 8 p.m. when Action Cove closes. We felt strongly that just because adults are playing pickleball, they shouldn't be exempt from the rules of the 8 p.m. closure that Action Cove is set forth by the commission. So it would be a hard stop at 8 p.m. We're still debating, do we do 9 or 10? And then on Sundays, we were thinking delay the start to maybe 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. To help with the noise. But again, nothing's set in stone yet, but we have had a loose discussion about it. And we've also discussed that signups it'd be open play, but if someone were to make a reservation on the MyRec website, reservations take precedence over anyone doing open play. So that's how we're trying to address that. Yeah.
Good. That sounds promising.
I like your idea of 9, except on Sundays starting at 11. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, it's to the discretion of Rob Phillips, the acting chair.
I think the board should make sure we have our questions before we take a
Yeah,
vote.
right. So we're going to continue doing what we're doing. And again, Angus, I'm going to ask, since you've made waiver requests, do you want to go over them just to make sure that we're okay?
I'm happy to. I don't think this is the exact right time. It sounds like Brian's got a question, and it sounds like there might be other questions. So that might be a good thing to do later in the meeting.
We could do that, but I'm thinking the waiver requests are going to raise their own set of questions.
They're all
Anybody
in
else?
writing. They've all been in writing for several weeks. So I would hope that if there were questions, the board would be prepared with those questions.
So Brian, did you have a question?
No, I did not.
No. Okay.
But we should discuss the waivers.
Without question.
That's what I think.
And again, I'm advocating that I think Ann Bodine needs to weigh in on the same topics that we're talking about here tonight. So,
I agree with that, Brian. I think if the hearing were to be, if there's no new information that's going to be on the record, the deliberation obviously can extend into a future meeting and can be part of that. But I would think the hearing would only be continued if there's an expectation of new information being put on the record.
well,
Right.
we've
In other
had
words,
plenty of new.
Ann can review
Let me,
what gets.
yes,
Go
let me
ahead.
just
I'm
say,
sorry,
we've
Brian.
had certainly enough new information presented tonight. It's certainly possible there'll be some additional new information. So that's my position, yes.
So the waivers were up?
For the waivers.
I can put them back up. I just didn't, it's your call.
Yeah, please, let's scan through the waivers just to see what might exist there.
Waiver requests. Are they showing up? Are they big enough for people to see?
Yes,
Do you want to go through them, Rob, or do you want me to?
No, you go right ahead. You're probably better on your screen.
Okay, so the first waiver is the locus plan that's normally required, showing the boundaries of lot, zoning district, et cetera, et cetera. And the applicant is requesting to waive the strict application of these requirements as they are unnecessary for this project. And so that's the first waiver. If the planning board, and by the way, they say, if the planning board finds that the site plan as submitted is missing information that the board does find as necessary or helpful, we'll be pleased to add such information to the site plan. And Rob, do you recognize me for discussion?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd like to move through these really quickly to see if
Okay, well,
anybody
just
has anything.
for me as one planning board member, I'm finding the site plan as submitted sufficient without all the details that we would normally require.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
yep,
Okay. The second one is normally we require existing and proposed structures, including dimensions, setbacks, footprints, gross floor area, number of stories, floor elevations, and building height. And they've requested to waive these requirements as unnecessary.
Yep, no building.
Yep, I'm okay with that. We don't need to know what the height of the snack shack is. Agreed?
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Signage, location, dimension, height, lighting, and other characteristics of all proposed signs. And the waiver request is the town's online myrec.com fields use reservation system currently in use to reserve town's ball field will be expanded to include the West Newbury residents to reserve pickleball courts, with courts open for public use when not previously reserved. The project is expected to include signage along the lines of the signage below. In addition, we propose to include a sign requesting that during the times of the day, there is significant activity. Pickleball players utilize the backup paved parking lot north of the snack shack. And that the specific location, dimension, and height has not yet been finalized. So this is a
So
little, go ahead.
I know that Ann, for instance, had concerns about better understanding the signage that would actually go up. So
yeah. And I would not agree to a waiver on this.
Well,
I
so
think
just to be clear, there was a supplemental memo submitted that did specify the dimensions of the signage. So I don't know if beyond that, so that's not in this memo. That was in the August 4th memo.
No, we just got that yesterday.
And your point being? You
I
haven't
think
had
we
time to
should
read it?
see exactly what we're getting here for signage, Angus.
Exactly what you're getting in terms of dimensions or lighting or?
No, in terms of you give an example of a different town's signage. Why can't we use our town's signage that you're proposing?
It's not fully designed yet.
Well, then I think it should be. So if the rest of the board wants to give you a waiver, that's fine. But
State that regulation of content of signage is absolutely out of bounds. Legally, First Amendment.
thank you, Angus.
Angus.
Really?
Yes, that is a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact, Brian.
So who makes, Who?
Oh, come
who-
on, Angus. What we're trying to do is what's right for the town here, and you're putting an example from the town of Groveland in place here.
Are you suggesting I'm not trying to do what's right for the town, Brian?
Angus, I'm trying to
Okay,
suggest that
okay,
we should
okay,
put
enough.
our
On
signage
the
in place
signage,
here.
on the signage, no matter what happens at the rest of the night, the signage will be continued. There will be a continued discussion next meeting on signage specifically. So,
All right, but
But-
just for the record, I think that the signs you're showing here are good. And the kind of information on these signs, I think it's good. I do think we need to nail down those hours of operation and the wording that you're going to use to encourage able-bodied people to use the more distant parking lot. That's just for me, so you know where my mind is at. And I assume that these are not going to be lit with anything and those kinds of details. So I think that I don't think there's any reason to request a waiver of this section of the site plan review, because it sounds like you got a handle on everything. And sounds to me like it's easy to nail this stuff down.
We certainly know the location, dimensions, height, lighting. Obviously, there's no lighting.
Perfect.
There's
All
other
good.
characteristics. I think that's where we get into things like content and hours, which is really legally under the jurisdiction of the Park and Rec Commission. So, I mean, I think, you know, we've made a good faith effort of showing you the type of signage. It's illustrative of what would happen in terms of why the planning board needs to know every syllable. I know, you know, Doug, I don't want to speak for him, but he had raised a concern following the July 15th meeting as to whether, let's say, the Park and Rec Commission changed the hours in the future. He wanted to make
Right.
sure not
Right.
something that has to go back to the planning board. I said, no, that's the Park and Rec
right,
jurisdiction. We have a written opinion from council from 6 years ago on that.
right. So speaking to that, yes, you know, the hours to me will most likely be decided as you go through the process. You may start out with hours that are nice, rosy hours going all the way to 8. You may find out that it's provident to allow for 8-hour days on the court because if the noise in fact is a little bit distracting to the neighborhood, you might want to be good neighbors. So I'm comfortable that we don't have to define the words on it. But Angus, you did just say the dimensions are known, the placement is known. I can't quite see that from the pictures you supplied, so perhaps maybe you can call them out on what I always refer to as a rendering, showing you know where you expect to have signage and what that signage will be attempting to convey. So
And
go ahead.
agreed, Rob. And of course, we need to know what the hours of operation are as part of the site plan review process. Of course, it's Doug Mead's call on that. We just need to know it and be able to say that sounds good and let the public weigh in the site plan review.
So
And
Ray, are you
of
suggesting
course,
that if
in the future, if Parks and Rec wants to change the hours, they would also need to change the signs, whether it's a little sticker or something. So I don't see that as an issue.
Well, I guess my question is, would there be an expectation it would need to come back to the planning board if they change the hours in the future? I think anything they say now doesn't, you know.
No, it does, no. No. And yeah, I don't,
I think Ray's point is that as when we do in fact start taking questions from those others in attendance, not on the Park and Rec, not on the planning board, not the town manager, not the engineer, we may in fact have similar concerns about length of operation, et cetera. So I suspect it will come up, but it will be to what you say, Angus. It will be set by Park and Rec, and I think I said earlier that we should be working on the assumption that if this thing is built correctly, then the administration of it should always be presumed to be in the interest of the public at large, including setting hours that make sense to the neighborhood as well as the people that want to use the facility.
Here, here.
Okay, so what's next beyond signage?
Okay, a request, okay, there's a requirement that the plan shall show pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular access, egress, and traffic flow patterns within the site and within adjoining easement areas benefiting the site. They request to waive that. I don't see a reason to waive it because you've presented that to us.
Obviously, site plan review is typically applied to commercial uses, which often include traffic studies and so forth. Obviously, that wasn't part of this. And, where there's no proposed change to the geometry of the access drive or
Yeah,
anything
no,
like that. We're not showing like,
Yeah,
Right.
but is one
Current
is one
radius
planning
and those
board
kinds of
member,
stuff.
is just one planning board member. I don't think you need this waiver because you're showing us.
Right.
okay, that's fine. I just
Right.
didn't
We're,
know.
we're in violent agreement on this.
Yeah, I didn't know,
Yes.
strict application if you were looking for anything beyond what we had provided.
Yeah.
Okay, another waiver. We require existing natural features, the location of wetlands, streams, water bodies, aquifers, drainage swales, areas subject to flooding, etc. All trees over 8 inches diameter, etc., and the general location of the tree line. Again, I don't think you need this waiver because I think you've done it. You've got the wetlands boundary shown in the plans, and if you want the waiver, I don't object to it because I don't expect you to go out there and caliper every tree within 100 feet. But yeah, I'm okay either way.
Yeah, that was really the question. Like I said in the narrative there, I think in proximity to the courts, I think the base plan is very detailed.
Yeah.
But I had
And
no idea
who
coming
defines
in
what
if
proximity is?
Yeah, I didn't know if the planning board would be looking for instance, the entire site, which obviously
No.
we weren't going to provide every tree over 8 inches for the
So
entire.
whatever, Rob, you're comfortable with, I don't think this waiver is needed, but I have no problem at granting the waiver either.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point. I mean, the one aspect we can do is grant everything requested, whether it's needed or not. That kind of answers that question. That's not to say that every single one of these things we don't want to take up a little bit further. Right now, the only thing I recall is signage. I think we've got one more to move through. And at the end of that, we can determine how we want to handle any of these waiver requests, some of which probably are not really relevant. But again,
All right.
the easiest thing for me is to find the thing that we need to further work on. And if everything else that Angus has listed here is okay by us, then just say, yeah, whether it's needed or not, we grant it.
Sure. And the last one is with respect to water and wastewater drainage, stormwater management, and other utilities. The location and description of all existing and proposed septic systems, water supplies, storm drainage systems, utilities, refuse, and other waste disposal method. And they're requesting a waiver to that because, none of that's relevant here. And I agree. I don't know about the planning board members.
Right, exactly. So we've got 4 members in attendance. I'm used to all 4 speaking up as they see fit. Just presuming that we're all in agreement that the only thing that we are perhaps needing more discussion on or more visuals on or more showing locations and sizes is the signage.
Yeah,
what
by
I'd
the
like
way, the signage, Angus, and Engineer Williams, I think that's easy you've got the site plan laid out. Be easy, just add a note and an arrow saying what signs are where. For example, with these, these example signs, are they shown at the entrance to the walkway or are they shown
right.
on the fence of the pickleball court? And you probably in your mind, you already figured that out, but easy to
Right.
call it out on the plan. Just add a
Right.
note.
Exactly. So you would, there seem to be two concerns about the signs is, like Ray just mentioned, placement and then perhaps maybe size.
Size.
Yeah, but it should be easy to call out in a fashion. I mean, the one thing I do miss from this set of plans, the engineered plans, is sometimes what you need is some renderings. Like pictures sometimes can show you a little bit more than the overhead engineering drawings. But if if four of us right now are in agreement that the one thing that we would want to discuss further later, not tonight, is the signage. What I would like to do is, there's people that are attending. We're now an hour into this meeting, and I would like, with the board's permission, to open up this to conversation from those that have been listening patiently.
Be fine with me.
You bet.
You bet. Okay, so Ray, if you would just, you can see who's asking to speak, and you do the curation of this.
Okay, so anybody that would like to speak, you can raise your hand. I see Tina, you're going to be next up. And then if somebody else would like to speak, there's a way to raise your hand using Zoom, but if that doesn't work, when Tina is done. Tina, I feel bad I'm not using your last name. It feels too informal. We
That's
haven't even met. But when
That's okay.
Tina is done, if somebody else wants to speak, you can just unmute and drop in. Also, Tina, I believe it's required by law that you state your name and your address.
Okay. I'm Tina Morrison. I live at 6 Daily Drive, so I'm behind where these pickleball courts are going to be. I think you've answered at least one of my questions, because I was wondering, with the 8 o'clock PM ending time, if there were going to be lights so that they could play into the fall till 8 o'clock, or if there was, if it would end up being more to dusk during the spring and fall seasons. And I also appreciate the fact that they're thinking about doing 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, as I'm not an early bird and don't want to be woken up at 7 o'clock when I saw that.
Angus, no lighting, right?
Correct, no lighting, yep.
Okay, and so in effect, it would be dusk or 8 o'clock, whatever's sooner. And I'm sure that the Parks and Rec folks will nail that down for us.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I see Doug, wait, Doug, were you, your camera came on, then went off?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna chime in and say, yeah, it would be for the spring and fall, it would be dusk, and then the latest play that would be allowed would be 8 p.m. So we just have to figure out the start time. Is it going to be 9 or 10? But it won't be terribly early. And I think it's Mrs. Morrison, like Justine's mom, right? Hey, it's good to see you. It's
Thank
really
you.
good to see you. Sorry, I went to high school with her daughter, so I was just saying hi. So this is a great reconnection. So wonderful. Thank you. All right.
And then again, Doug, just to be clear,
Yeah.
after the pickleball courts have been running a while, if there's concerns by butters and stuff, Parks and Rec would take it up and consider changing these times, right?
Yeah, and then that's what we discussed at our meeting on Thursday. I know that was a tough day to schedule because we had the MBTA zoning meeting as well, but we wanted to, as a commission, have a meeting before this. So schedule wise, it's the only day that we could make it work. But we did say, like, we'll start with X, we'll see how it goes for a season or two, and then if we need to change to Y, we will do that.
That's good. An analogous situation was when we were talking about lighting the ball fields at the new high school. This almost exact same discussion came up, where we were talking about hours of operation, how it would work, how it would reserve, and the hours the lights would be on. And then, of course, after that, it's a school board decision and things can change. So it's the same sort of deal there. Ms. Morrison, did we address your concerns here? Good, thank you. Was there anybody else here that would like to speak or ask questions? I'm not seeing anybody, but you can just unmute and chime in if you like. All right, Rob, I'm not seeing anybody else that wants to speak at this point.
Okay. So this gets us back now to the rest of the process. At this point, we could close the public portion.
I mean, Rob, it sounds like there's an expectation of more detail on the record. I would, we're certainly happy to provide that. The commission last night did continue their hearing till Monday, the 25th of August. Their normal meeting would be the 18th, but they had a couple of members who weren't going to be there, so they pushed it back a week. I would obviously rather have the hearing closed once all the members feel that
Very good.
the information is fully responsive.
Yep.
So,
No, that's great.
yeah,
That's
so
great.
I think if, I would want to ensure before tonight's session closes that kind of if there's, I'd hate to have something new come up in 2
That's
weeks.
what I was going to get to, Angus.
Yeah.
Trust me. I'm not looking to stop the meeting right now. I just wanted to discuss, the going forward. You've answered that question. So we'll end up later on today saying that we're continuing this public hearing. But back to the original thing. Okay, again, I'm going to describe two tranches. One is the thing that was presented to us starting at the path going down to the pickleball court. Angus needs to know what other issues exist relating to that. That's one thing. Keeping in mind that I think this whole process is going to be iterative in a sense that we're going to know how effective the acoustics are once we get something built and up and running. I'm really hoping that we'll always be responsive to the community at large, not just the people using the facility. I have confidence in that. But as far as what is on the submission to us, and this doesn't preclude then going on to the stuff that we, I think, have all agreed needs to be noted as important to us, but not related to the plan that's been presented. What on the plan, other than perhaps calling out signage better or doing a rendering or whatever, so we can understand that better. Is there anything else that we're going to need to have further information on?
So just for the record, I respect Engineer Williams here, and I trust him to just confirm the foundations of the posts with the building commissioner, and if it's good with between a registered professional engineer and Mr. Williams and the building commissioner, it'll be good with me. I also think as an engineer looking over the information about the sound attenuation, I appreciate what they've done here and providing that detail. I think that the best science has been applied here, and it should work well. And then finally, overall, I think this will be a positive asset to the town and be enjoyed by a wide variety of residents and their guests. So I think this is a good thing. Just a couple of details here.
Okay, so is that on solely on this one first tranche that I'm talking about? Is that the comments we want to make about it? We've already discussed the waivers. The signage is related to the one thing that we're still working on. We've I think adequately explained what we're looking for to probably Angus is comfortable with that. So are we good as a board right now on this stuff, not the stuff that's peripheral, which we will talk about?
Rob, I did have just one. I mentioned something earlier. I just want to make sure it wasn't lost in the shuffle. As you know, Rich had moved the plan somewhat further away from the wetlands. I mentioned it earlier in the meeting that the Concom expressed last night they would be, they're okay with that, but they'd like to see it further from the wetlands. So I know either that might be an issue of interest to the planning board in terms of the balance between kind of having that path further from the playground as opposed to further from the wetlands. So as I think everybody knows, the proposed center line of that proposed path is staked in the field. So I guess what I'm saying is if the planning board saw fit to move that path somewhat closer to the playground, I think the Concom would favor that. We certainly, as the applicant, we certainly would have no objection to that.
And as one planning board member, as long as it doesn't go closer to the wetlands, it's fine with me. That
Can you pull it up? Can you pull it up?
Yeah, let's see how.
Aren't I
what-
doing
We
that?
gotta look at it.
Okay, let me just let me get that right here.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate it.
Yep. Sorry. There we go. So, you
How
know,
much
the exact
closer,
location is not shown out anyway. What's that?
how much closer are you? Yes, it's tough to read on this.
It's not really called out. I'd say that right now you're about 4 feet away from the proposed siltation line here, which is this dashed dot. And
Yeah, I was talking about from the playground
Play
structure.
area.
yeah, they kind of split it here. So my calibrated eye says you got about 20 feet to the wetlands and about 20 feet to the play area.
Yeah, if I could chime in, that's about right. And at the beginning of the path, there are a couple of trees that we don't want to move the path because
Right.
we don't want to lose those trees. And our feeling was if we split the difference and don't create a route that is overly circuitous, that would be better. But
Right.
we could put more bends in it and move it away from the wetland if
But,
people
but,
saw.
but who's actually
fit.
requesting this?
Hi, this is Molly from the Conservation Commission.
Hi,
Can you-
Molly. Welcome.
Hi.
Ms.
Thanks.
Hawkins.
Hi.
We must have your address, but could you just state it real quick?
Yeah, it's 347 Main.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just out of fairness to other applicants for permits from the Conservation Commission, our policy is to have a 25-foot no disturb area. So I just wanted to hear from the planning board, justification for having the path closer to the wetland than the 25-foot no disturb zone that we usually require. And I went and looked at the stakes earlier this week, and I mean, it seemed to me like there is a possibility, there is an alternative to move it to the, what would be, I guess, the east side of those trees, between the trees and the playground fence. But I would just like to hear for the record what the justification is for not using that route.
Ms. Hawkins,
I'm sorry to interrupt,
wait,
but
I got to jump in here, Angus. Just
I
so
have
you know,
photos I can put up. I have photos of the stakes that might.
no, that's fine. I just want to make sure that Ms. Hawkins is clear that the planning board did not propose this location of the path. We're responding to the location of the path being proposed to us. And as long as it is one planning board member, as long as the Concom is fine with this, I'm okay if it can be improved and it doesn't.
Right. Right. And
that's
we
fine.
did just have an explanation as to why the path goes down to avoid the 3 trees. Then so you have that area right there that it's to protect the trees that exist. And then the question would be, as the engineer was explaining it, how circuitous do you want to make this thing wrap? And so that's why I asked, is this a request that we move it, or is it just something that? Go ahead,
Rob, if I
Angus.
could,
Yes.
if I could do a screen share, I took some snapshots of the staking that
Yep.
was, and I just think it would be helpful. I'll just put that up on the screen. I think from where I'm coming from, and I assume, Doug feels the same way, is, we want the best outcome. So really, whatever the consensus is between the planning board and the Concom, I think, like I said earlier, Concom was okay with it as proposed. If it could be closer to the playground, they would prefer that. You can
So
see.
why wouldn't you put it closer to the playground? That's what I don't
I-
understand.
I would, let me weigh in. I think it's in the ideal location here. It's away from the trees. The kids run around in that wood chipped area and whatnot.
Well,
I,
there is
I
a fence. There's a fence between the
that,
trees
that's
where the
a more
kids aren't running,
that's a
because
more
that's like the,
secure that's a
that-
more secure area, and then
yeah.
just beyond that, the kids typically will run in there and whatnot. I've been there enough. I think it provides an ideal delineation of the function. I appreciate the fact that it's closer to the wetland, but for me, I would leave it where it's engineered. But that we're not telling you where to put it. I just think for Action Cove and for this new use, I think it's a good spot.
And as for me, I'm comfortable with whatever Parks and Rec / Angus / Engineer Williams work out with Molly Hawkins. So whatever you guys work out, it's okay as long as the Concom does give its blessing in the end. I don't know, Deb, you've got experience on the Concom.
Yeah, I think there's going to be very little impact to the wetland from this trail path. I don't think it's going to jeopardize the wetlands on the other side. Yes, that I did help delineate the first spring frog breeding pond in the town, and it is right over there, but I don't think this is going to impact that.
Yeah, I
But
think
again, I'm going to have to ask, Angus has the picture up and I see the two trees. I'm just wondering why you can't go to the right of the trees. I know
Well,
Brian commented on that, but
I-
I
I can
just,
chime in there. We can go to the right of the trees, but it will take you right up to the edge of that play area. So the
right,
path will
as you can see from the picture, right.
will be
So
tucked
again,
there.
I
And
asked,
our thinking was that was probably not better from a location standpoint. I understand it's further from the wetland, but not better from a location standpoint. And we were hoping to keep some separation between those two uses, the pickleball and the court, and to not have the kids that are using the playground be on the court, as a play area.
but
But
this is a pathway. This isn't the actual court. This is a travel way.
Mhm.
So I
totally
don't
agree. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't see that the kids would, just because the path goes closer to the mulch, is necessarily an invitation for the kids to then go interfere with pickleball.
No, that's not what I
yeah,
meant.
I, quite honestly, I think, like Ray said, this is a little bit of something that a finer point could be put on it by Angus, the Concom, and the Park and Rec. So since we're going
Could-
to 2 meetings out, what I'm hoping is that Angus,
2 meetings out, Rob?
2 weeks out,
2 weeks out. Yeah.
2 weeks out, Angus.
All
So
right.
what I'm saying is we've got signage we're going to take up the next time. I'm really comfortable that between Concom, town manager, and Park and Rec, that you guys can end up with the best placement, all things considered. That's what I think. I mean, would
No,
that
I'm
not be
fine.
possible?
I'm fine. For me, I don't know if Brian is the same, but I'm fine with wherever you guys want. If you guys want to move it 5 feet in or whatever, go one side of the trees to the other, I'm okay.
Yeah,
either
but
way.
we're gonna have another meeting, Ray, anyways, and I
Yeah.
agree with you. That's why I'm basically saying the same thing, is like, you guys sort it out, you guys come back with what it is. I don't think we should be in a position to comment one way or the other until we see what the end proposal is. Molly has spoken for a reason she'd like it elsewhere. I haven't heard from Doug, or the Park and Rec
Doug-
people, what they may think, and,
Doug thanked us for our diligence here, and, but he had to step away, so.
Yeah,
Doug-
right. So,
Yeah.
so
If,
all I'm
if,
saying
if
is,
I could share my screen just one last time, I could show what 25 feet looks like, and we could just have just a quick conversation about what moving it outside the 25 feet would look like, and we can do that pretty quick. Maybe not make a decision, but have everyone see it.
Sure.
That makes
Good
sense?
By me. Yeah.
Yep.
good by-
Okay.
Yep.
Do it quick here.
And 25 feet isn't hard and fast, but I do,
Right.
if there is an alternative, I'd like
right,
to
we
explore
take,
the
we,
alternative.
Molly, trust me, we take your point.
Yeah.
Yep,
you've raised
understood.
a good,
So-
good thing.
These blue circles are all 25 feet from the wetland. So the path would need to be outside of those to be outside of 25 feet, which means we'd have to take it on the right side of these trees. So the path would come in here. There are some stumps that we weren't proposing to remove, which would have to be removed because you'd be coming in here and through here and then up and then bend it in. So it could be done. It would be out close to that play area. And, you know, that's the negatives are you're close to the play area and maybe
Okay.
have to remove some stumps that you weren't planning on doing.
Yeah,
but
okay, Rich.
it's not a big
Rich,
deal.
Right, Rich, what about just still to the left of the trees, but you've got, you know, some room to move just to the left of the trees and everything past that becomes pretty much above the 25. So
Okay.
in other words,
Yeah,
instead of
and that
getting
would be
close-
fine, but
right.
we wouldn't be 25 feet.
Yeah, well, but life is not literal, Rick. I mean, you know, we're looking for we're looking for gradations. Molly is
Sometimes
looking,
it is literal, actually.
well, okay, fine.
Okay,
But
but in this case, we're saying, is there an alternative that's closer to 25 feet than,
right,
you know,
yeah,
4
what
or
I've
5
just
feet,
proposed,
which is
what
what it
I've
is.
just proposed basically
Yeah.
puts you at 20 at the worst. Okay, so 20, 25, 20, 25, 25, 25. So that's all I'm asking. It
Yeah, absolutely. We could
doesn't
hug this
take you, it
tree.
doesn't force you to be close to the play area. It just means that you don't get a perfect 25 every place.
As
Molly,
a
are you
resident,
okay with that?
yeah, as a resident, I'd also like it, you know, to be, you know, acceptable design wise. You know, I'd like to think about, I also am seconding the conversation about having an alternative to the parking area at Action Cove, just because I know on nice days when people are going to want to play pickleball as well as little kids are going to want to play there, it will probably be a full parking lot. So
So well, can we wrap up on the path
Yeah.
so I can
Yeah,
understand
let's
what's going
stick
to be
to the
acceptable?
path. That's what we're talking
If
about, yes.
if we slide the path up close to this 10-inch tree, not
Yes.
close enough to not affect the tree negatively,
Right,
and then keep it out of the 25
yes,
until we get up here. Are you going to be in support of that, Molly?
I'm in support of, you know, whatever alternatives make sense to get it a little bit further from the wetland. Only because everyone in town is expected to do this, so I just need justification for why it's not possible. And if you're telling me that we would have to grind some stumps, you know, I think that's a reasonable alternative.
right. So it sounds like we're in agreement to what you just mapped out, Rich.
Okay.
Planning board, Rich has just laid out what I think is the solution, the best alternative that we can come up with. Do any of you think differently or want to discuss this further?
No,
No.
I'm fine with it. I think it's great to stay as he suggested. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. So Rich, you should
He's
presume
doing,
that this
he's
is.
doing it right in front of your eyes.
He's doing it right there like magic. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
still, I would still swing part of it down a little bit further away from, yeah, you're right, but whatever.
There you
So,
go.
Yeah, so.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that'll be great.
Something like that.
Hey, you should probably grind those stumps out anyway. That's not gonna cost much.
Oh, no, yeah, no, it helps keep what the Concom would prefer, and grinding stumps, let's, give some people some work to do. So, so,
It's also safer probably for the kids and for the
yeah,
pickleball players.
okay, so I
Yep.
think we're gonna put this discussion aside for right now. The second part of what I wanted to get to was Molly just alluded to part of it, is there's these other things that aren't part of the plan that's being presented to us, but have come up on a couple of occasions, specifically parking and a path that gets us to alternative parking. So I just think we should resolve to what extent we're going to suggest, cajole, or whatever, how we're going to incorporate that into this site plan review.
So, hold on here. Zoom is giving me difficulties here. That's
Uh-oh.
unfortunate. When it comes to parking, you do get higher density if you got asphalt and striping, so that's a good future project. And with respect to the path, there's all kinds of reasons for the town to invest in that infrastructure in the future. Are you guys there? Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Good, good, because I'm having oh, there we are. There's the window. Now I got everybody back. Yeah. And, right now, that informal path is a facility that the townsfolk are using. So, Angus, I don't mean to make a big deal about this, but either it's a safe path and the town is letting people use it as a safe path, or it's not a safe path and the town should be restricting the use of the path because it's not safe. So to me, that represents a liability to the town that needs to be addressed anyway. And I'd be glad to speak to lawyers about it, but as you know, we're not allowed to do that. So that's where I stand on the path.
So it's interesting you use safe path because, walking grounds goes on at any high school or college or whatnot. I like the concept of describing what a path across the park and rec property would entail. I think it merely needs to be a safe path, like you just said. A safe path to me is signage sufficient to keep people out of harm's way and point them in the right direction. But that said,
It's a future project.
yeah.
I think
So
we're talking about an accessible path, and Ray, you just used the word safe for the first time. We were not talking about a safe path. We were talking about whether it was ADA accessible. That was the discussion.
Well, I think that, if there's a sign that says, either way, I very much appreciate the idea that you're directing able people, in crowded circumstances to use the remote parking lot. That's great. That's a great thing. When the day comes to discuss improving the infrastructure here and making that a safe path so that people are protected from home runs from that middle field, and where two people can pass safely without twisting an ankle. When that day comes, then there can be the discussion about whether or not it needs to be ADA accessible.
right. I took that point.
I'm not an
by the way.
expert on that stuff.
Yeah.
But
No,
right.
I took that point. I will say that Doug, I think it's a very valid point. What we're really talking about is to somehow describe the elements of that area that need attention without getting down to the level of describing what the attention is. So, for instance,
Yeah.
Ray has mentioned, yeah.
Future project.
Right. So what I would say is that and I don't know this, not having been on the board for 100 years, um, I'm just wondering if when we wrap this up, which I think is going to be next meeting in 2 weeks, when we wrap this up, I think we're going to have figured out what it would be like to not say you must do this, but rather to say, and we would expect some attention paid to this. So
Yeah, I think
that's
that's
a little bit
great
different than what we've ever written, I
language.
believe. Yes,
Yeah, I
Brian?
mean, no, I agree. I default to a condition that will force you to do something, but if that's not a legally responsible and thing to do, then I think it needs to be noted in some fashion
Right.
that as reminders rather than just verbiage.
Right.
I think,
So
I think, for example, we could write a formal letter saying that in the course of this site plan review, a couple of issues came up, and it is the planning board's strong recommendation that in the near future, these infrastructure improvements be explored and funded. And that could include paving and striping the Action Cove. It could include improving the path between parking lots and whatnot. I don't think we can make it a condition because, that's now you're into all the financing and CPC
Yeah,
money and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
No, you
But we
said it.
can, we
You
can
said,
write a formal letter to this,
Yeah.
to the select board with a
Right.
copy of Parks and Rec or the other way around or to both.
yeah.
that
And
could be
town
our new
manager
planners,
obviously.
our new planner's first task.
Yeah,
Right.
There you go.
Good. So it seems like we've resolved that, how to handle each of the separate tranches. One would be that we would be probably wrapping it up next week, and probably in there it would be Rick would do some additional work about signage, Angus as well, and where the placement is, sizes, et cetera. And
And the
then
initial
see the new
hours.
path.
and the initial stab at hours, what the hours will be when this first opens, and presumably for a few months after.
Yeah, although I'm really myself have to believe that we're going to learn more after we build this stuff, and I think we're going to have
Always.
to be prepared. Yeah, we're going to have to be prepared to react to what we learn.
Yeah, and
I mean, that's the obligation. That's the obligation. We have.
changing the signage in the future might be just getting the right kind of sticky tape that's lettered and, changing the hours that way.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And so, does this sound like a plan for the going forward?
I'm good.
Yes, it does.
Okay, so what I'm gonna say, and tell me if I'm doing this wrong, but what I'm gonna say is that we're gonna continue this to
Okay.
2 weeks out.
A date and time certain.
Yeah, and the time, we've already talked about, I think, that first up will be Middle Street. We owe them that. Angus, I apologize, I know these are late nights for you, but I think this would be second up. How much time do you think is needed for Zero Middle next time?
I think it's going to be a debated item, minimum of 1 hour. I would expect hour and a half would be more reasonable.
Yeah, so, right, so we'll talk about it when we set the agenda, but I'm thinking you're right at an hour and a half.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, we go ahead.
yeah,
Yes?
I'm just wondering if, we presume that hearing will not be continued, but I mean, who the heck really knows? We
What
could always-
hearing? What hearing?
Middle Street.
No, that continuance was because we couldn't deliver.
I know, but you never know what life challenges
Oh,
get thrown in front
okay,
of people.
okay, so.
We could
So,
pick
yeah,
a
you
a
had
more
said it,
reasonable time for this,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
open it and then recess it. We've done
Yep.
that in the past.
Yeah.
So, right, so you're exactly right. So we'll discuss times later.
No,
but-
we have to, we have to do a date and time certain now, so I would.
Okay, let's do it.
Eight
Let's do it.
o'clock now.
Brian, you set the date and time certain.
I mean, I think we set them up at 7:05. I mean, I'd tee it up at 7:30, but being realistic, it's probably going to be 8 o'clock. I
So
just
let's
hate
do
to
8
have us
o'clock.
take another recess. I mean,
No,
unless you
no,
want
no,
to do
right,
that.
right. So that's what you came up with the explanation. So you set one at 7:05, you set one at 7:10.
No,
You know, you
7:30.
open both, whatever. Yeah,
7:30.
so, yeah, okay. 7:30.
Okay, so I move that we continue the site plan review on the pickleball courts until our meeting on 19 of August at 7:30 PM.
I'll second that.
So let's take a vote unless someone wants to discuss it. Let's vote.
Ray Cook, aye.
Deb Hamilton, I.
Brian Murphy, aye.
Rob Phillips, aye, unanimous. So does that wrap up tonight's meeting?
I think it does, sir.
So,
Unless, the only thing that we didn't address on the agenda would be administrative details, if any.
do we have an administrator here?
No, well, that's you now.
No, okay. I've got none.
Okay, then. I'll make the motion to adjourn, Mr. Phillips.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Ray Cook, aye.
Deb Hamilton,
Brian
I.
Murphy, aye.
Rob Phillips, aye. So we're officially closed for the evening. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
Rob.